morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it is 6:59. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mack is here. Matthew is here. Brooke is out today. It's 7 o'clock right there. Woof on 101 ESPN. Good morning, Daniel. How you doing?
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
Everything's great. Looking forward to more hockey tonight. The Blues continue their 24-25 Stanley Cup championship season. And, of course, we have more baseball after great baseball yesterday. Maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing, but postseason baseball that had interesting moments.
I'm curious what you guys think with the Blues. I was thinking about this. They have back-to-back games. Hofer's going to play in one of them.
HOFer.
Do you want to go to the lesser team in the San Jose Sharks to ease him in and then go with Binnington against Vegas? Or do you just ride Binnington after that opening night, which he was really good, really saved them, I thought, early in the game and basically for half the game, and was outstanding and gave them a chance to win as they came back. But do you go with Binnington or do you go with Hofer tonight in San Jose?
It's interesting because the Blues, and I think this is realistic, they don't think that Hofer is that far behind Binnington. They really like Joel Hofer.
Absolutely.
And I would have no problem at all with Hofer going against Vegas tomorrow night. But you also want to get him into action ASAP. So I would want to play Hofer tonight and then go with Binnard. That's just the natural play for me. Go with Binnington against the way better team in the Vegas Golden Knights.
Now, a huge storyline from last night, and truly our thoughts and prayers with everybody down in Florida. But the video, just insane video. The roof was blown off at Tropicana Field.
Unreal.
It was just, if you get a chance to see the video, it's unbelievable to see it. And there's some that have video showing it come in, the storm, and blow off the roof. I mean, man, my thoughts and prayers with everybody down in Florida. This is a scary situation for sure.
Yeah, down that entire coast. And, of course, the Cardinals used to train there, and there are a lot of St. Louisans who spend a lot of time there still. I know Coach Venturi has a house on St. Pete Beach, and I got to catch up with him and find out how that worked out. But, man, devastation throughout the coast there in Florida.
Do you like St. Pete or Jupiter better for his training for St. Louis?
I like Jupiter better.
I do, too.
It used to be for a long time St. Pete, but Jupiter's turned into a real town now.
It has.
And
in 98, there was nothing there.
Nothing. No.
And so now they build that stadium, they build the infrastructure around it, all the buildings, and then people moving towards that direction. So it's if you get a chance to go down to spring training, do it.
Baseball yesterday, the Tigers moved to within a game of the American League Championship Series. We'll go through all of these. Tigers beat Cleveland 3-0. The Mets advanced to the NLCS with a 4-1 win over Philadelphia. The Mets win that series in 4. The Yankees knocked off the Royals 3-2, so the Yankees are within a game of going back to the ALCS. And then last night, the Dodgers used 8 pitchers in a bullpen game, and they blanked the Padres 8-0, and they forced Game 5 of the National League Division Series. We can work backward from Dylan Cease not lasting 2 full innings for the Padres, and the Dodgers opening up a lead and then never relinquishing that lead.
You don't second-guess Mike Shildt a lot, but he's going to be second-guessed about this because short day's rest, hadn't done that, wasn't very effective the first time out. I can understand why he's doing it. He's trying to close out the series. He's going with his horse. In the first game that he threw in, he didn't really pitch all that much, so you bounce back with him, but that is going to be second guess for sure, opening up the conversation today.
And I think the other part of it is Martin Perez has pitched well, and you've got a lineup that the strength of the lineup is left-handed.
Yeah.
So Perez would not have been a bad call against them either. But I guess Michael King is going to go in Game 5.
He's nasty, too.
Yeah.
He's been a great pickup from the Yankees in that deal that brought him to San Diego. But, again, Mike Shildt doesn't get questioned on a lot, but he will be this morning. And a lot of people will say, well, why not go with, rested guys or go to a bullpen game, which seems to be the trend right now in Major League Baseball, but they didn't do it. They lose, and they force a Game 5, and that place will be nuts at Dodger Stadium.
It will be absolutely crazy, as it will at Yankee Stadium if they can get back there. The Yankees taking 2-1 lead over the Royals. Giancarlo Stanton, I don't remember him having a signature moment with the Yankees until last night. The 8th inning homer for Stanton gives the Yankees a 3-1 or a 3-2 victory over the Kansas City Royals and a 2-1 lead in the series.
And Stanton, before the game, was out there early. He was taking every pitch the other way. And when you do that, usually you stay on the baseball, and it's more bat to ball. You're trying to go to right field. You take the ball up the middle, which is something that he did. So give him credit. He put in the work. It did work out. In watching the game, I don't know what you guys thought, but it was crazy to me between Kansas City and the Yankees, which we're talking about. But Tommy Pham against Luke Weaver in the bottom of the ninth.
How about that?
I didn't see that one coming.
No,
and for people that don't know, Luke Weaver's closing games out for the Yankees.
Yeah, he's their guy. And they've had so many issues in the bullpen down the stretch, and he's kind of ascended to be that guy.
I guess we should, look at it this way. When you get into postseason play, these starters are going 5 innings, and then it's the bullpen. Or you do a bullpen start.
Yep.
For instance, Detroit used 6 different pitchers, and Cleveland pinch hit in both the second and the third innings to try to counter because they were so left-handed. It's amazing what these teams are doing. It doesn't, in my opinion, it does not work in the regular season.
Okay, in no way. You can't make it work.
Cannot do that.
162. Okay, Dan, you watch a lot of ball. Do you know Keeter Montero very well?
No.
Do you know Blaze Herter?
No.
Bo Brisky?
Oh, I've heard of him.
I've heard of him. Sean Gunther. Will Vest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's who Detroit was trotting out there. It wasn't Verlander, Price, and Scherzer like it was a decade ago for them. They used a bullpen game, and by the way, Tyler Holton finished up for them, and they blanked Cleveland, and Cleveland does not have a bad lineup, especially their 2 big guys. Well, they have the Naylor brothers, they have Kwan, they have Ramirez. They have multiple big guys, but a half a dozen Tiger pitchers that most people don't know combined to blank them.
So do you think it could work as you look forward to the St. Louis Cardinals in 2025? When you're watching these teams, the lineup just doesn't match up for me. And then you look at the starting rotation, it doesn't match up for me for this team to have success if they got into postseason play. I guess the only thing that would work is their bullpen. Their bullpen was pretty good this year, and that's one of the things that has stood out for me. But when I look at these lineups, man, they are loaded, and I just have a hard time seeing where the Cardinals would fit in, thinking about, advancing beyond the regular season of next year.
Well, I agree in theory 100% with what you're saying. I think we have to go back and look at 2011. I mean, Mark Zebchinski, Octavio Dotel, Fernando Salas, Jason Mott closing it out. I mean, we knew who Jason Mott was and that he threw hard, but who around the country knew who Jason Mott was? I could argue that in the 2011 World Series, America did not know the Cardinal bullpen, which won it for them.
And I could come back and say, but they had some dudes in their lineup.
Well, they did.
But so did the Phillies. And look at what the Phillies did this year. Completely shut down in the postseason. Phillies hitters outside of Bryce Harper, Randy, and Nick Castellanos went 13 for 100 in the series. So they hit 130, 180 slug, 1 home run. That was it. They got shut down by the Mets.
Yeah, and credit to the Mets, and they're on a magical run, aren't they? The Mets might be one of those teams of destiny. And then the other game yesterday, the one we're talking about now, Phillies and Mets, Francisco Lindor with a grand slam home run, and the Mets come back and beat the Phillies 4-1 and eliminate the Phillies. It was a grand slam in the bottom of the 6th inning, and the place went nuts. It's probably the craziest Citi Field has ever been.
Yeah.
And the Mets advanced to the NLCS.
The Mets had never clinched at home.
Isn't that amazing? In that ballpark.
Yeah. So I thought the key in the game outside of the Lindor grand slam was David Peterson. He had 2+ innings coming out of the pen, and we're talking about how you have to. Quintana only lasted 5, and then they go to their bullpen, and you got to have somebody give you probably more than 1 inning in that situation, and they got it from David Peterson, 2+ innings out of the bullpen, and that was the story in that game.
And so today you have an opportunity for 2 teams in the American League to advance against each other in the ALCS. It's a 5 o'clock game for Cleveland at Detroit. Detroit, again, undecided, and it'll be Tanner Bibby for Cleveland. And then the Yankees will try to wrap things up, and they've got Garrett Cole going against Michael Wacha in Kansas City, and that game starts at 7 o'clock St. Louis time.
So if you're the Yankees, this is why you pay Garrett Cole. He can't be like he was in Game 1. You're paying him to be a stud, and we're talking about all the bullpen moves and things of that nature. if I'm Aaron Boone, I got to see 6, maybe 7 innings out of Garrett Cole to win that game. With Detroit and Cleveland, I got to see the Guardians score 26 innings. They've scored in 2 of them. That's it. The 6th inning of Game 1 is the last time that they scored. They've got to find some kind of offense, and if they don't, it's going to be Detroit. I don't know how it happened, but they're going to be in the American League Championship Series.
It's amazing that they really got hot after the trade deadline, after they traded away Jack Flaherty, and people thought, oh, they're cashing out. They're bailing out this year. And then all of a sudden they get hot. Here they are in the playoffs with a chance to go to the LCS.
And the Mets were 11 games below 500 at one point. And that's the randomness, the craziness of baseball. At some point, a team gets hot. Other teams at the top kind of come back to the pack. And that's why even in July, in August, you just don't give up. You got a shot.
We didn't know and still don't know about Steve Cohen, but I give him a lot of credit because when they were 11 games under 500, when they went to London in June, he had a press conference and said, we aren't going to sell. This team can still chip away and make it to the playoffs. And he didn't lose his head. He was very calm. He was very Steinbrenner-like, George Steinbrenner-like in his approach. And they did it the right way, and they didn't sell. And lo and behold, here they are in the LCS.
And Lindor turned into an MVP. He's not going to win the MVP. He's going to get some votes for it. There's going to be conversation about him getting the MVP. But that's another guy that you signed for over $300 million, playing up to his ability. And the investment right now, if you're Steve Cohen, is saying, this is worth it because this guy has been a stud for us down the stretch.
NFL Thursday Night Football, you've got the 49ers and the Seahawks tonight, and we'll see a couple of rookie starters this weekend. The Patriots had already announced that Drake May would get his first NFL start. And now with the injury to Derek Carr in New Orleans, Spencer Rattler of the Saints will get the start, the former Oklahoma and South Carolina signal caller.
All right, I need help for tonight.
Okay.
Seattle, San Francisco. Who do we have?
Well,
I don't know what to expect out of the 49ers.
San Francisco is still beat up. Seattle, while sloppy, is good. And I kind of like Seattle in this game. I'm always reluctant to take the road team, even though they might be better in a Thursday night game because they have virtually no preparation time. And the Niners are still dealing with a ton of injuries. So I think I would take Seattle, especially with the Niners being favored by 3.5. I think I'd take Seattle in those points.
It's kind of the year of the comeback of the quarterback. Geno Smith, I mean, he's been very good.
Yep.
You got to give him credit. And then going back to these rookies that are starting, I feel for Drake May. He's going to get killed.
Yeah, I don't know why the Patriots are doing that.
I mentioned it yesterday. Brissett on his dropbacks has been pressured 47% of the time.
Yeah.
And you're going to send a rookie into that? Good luck.
And Jared Mayo doesn't have any pressure. He's in his first year, and they aren't going to fire him. And if I'm Jared Mayo, if there's any pressure at all from ownership, I'm going to say, look, we drafted this guy third. I don't want to get him killed. I don't want to get him messed up mentally. I want him to get into the game when he's ready and when the rest of the team is ready. Clearly, that offense isn't ready. Who does New England have offensively that scares anybody?
Nobody.
Not one player.
Nope.
So why put a quarterback into that situation?
I wouldn't. And the offensive line is one of the worst in the National Football League. I can't just throw him to the Wolves because all of a sudden he becomes gun shy. And it has a lasting effect of trying to get him right. Probably doesn't work, won't work this weekend, and he's going to get beat up.
I would think so. All right, we're off and running on this edition of the Opening Drive on 101 ESPN. Later in the show, we're going to hear from Greg Amsinger at the bottom of this hour. Hall of Famer Bernie Federko with his first appearance of the year with us here on 101 ESPN. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, today is the 25th anniversary of the Rams snapping a 17-game losing streak against the San Francisco 49ers. Dan, literally, this is not hyperbole here, not hyperbole. Literally one of the 10 favorite days of my entire life was 25 years ago today.
Is it really?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so great.
Top 10 in your life.
10. Yeah, Isaac scores 3 first quarter touch. So we knew how good the Rams were, right? At that point, they're 4-0 coming into the game, 3-0 coming into the game, and the Niners are 3-1. We set up the tailgate against San Francisco, so we've got the clam chowder and everything going. And before that game, on the Saturday before that game, I went to Schnucks, and I picked up like a half dozen bottles of champagne. And I loaded up a bunch of champagne glasses because I was so convinced that the Rams were going to win that game. We didn't have it before the game. We waited until after the game, after the Rams complete the 42-20 victory, snapping a 17-game losing streak against the 49ers. And we're out in that parking lot, that MAC parking lot, clinking champagne glasses and toasting a Rams victory after that one. It was so awesome. So remember Bob Trumpy with NBC?
Oh, yeah.
He was the analyst on on NFL games. And they get to a game in the fourth quarter, and somebody would score a touchdown to go up like 10 or 17, and Bob Trumpy would go, "This game is over." So I would do that a lot with Patrick next to me, and Patrick at that time was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so first quarter, Isaac scores the third touchdown. The Rams go up 21-3. First quarter. And I turned to Patrick and I said, "This game is over." It was awesome.
What else did you get into with Isaac? I'm looking forward to this one.
It's one of my favorite interviews ever with Isaac.
Is it really?
About the season, yeah. And about him rolling the car on the way back from Columbia, about the hamstring injury that nobody knew about before the NFC divisional game against Minnesota. And his memories of that San Francisco game. He's got such a great memory. And so talked about the touchdowns, talk about his reaction to those touchdowns. It's really a fun interview.
You mentioned the name and names of some former broadcasters. I miss Dick Enberg. I miss Merlin Olsen.
Me too.
Those guys were football to me. Obviously, Madden, Summerall, they were football to me on a Sunday. I just miss those guys.
Oh, my.
Yes, Dick Enberg. Oh, my.
He was great. Yeah, me too. Those guys were great. And they are. Summerall and Madden. Man, wouldn't it be great to have them on a Sunday afternoon on Fox?
Awesome.
They were great.
Yep.
That's Dan. Matthew's here. I'm Randy. Coming up, get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646.
Yo-ho.
399. Yo-ho. We've got Sick of It next on 101 ESPN.
I mean, you got two choices,
right?
And it's one or the other.
There are, for example, the Rangers want to explore building their own network. The Rangers, Cubs, Yankees, Dodgers, some of the bigger markets have that. But for the mid-markets like St. Louis, Major League Baseball is going to take over. They've already taken over the Diamondbacks, Padres. They're going to have the Twins and Tigers next year, Brewers next year as well. They'll be under the umbrella of Major League Baseball, and there will be a template. If you live in Milwaukee, you live in Detroit, you live in Minneapolis, you live in, when it happens with St. Louis, it'll all look the same. It'll kind of be like MLS on Apple, except it won't be on Apple. And you'll be able to get the games on cable TV. You'll be able to get the games on free TV for the most part. But the biggest thing is you'll be able to pick up an app or use your smart TV and get a game wherever you are, and you won't be subject to blackouts.
I think this is interesting. The 314, I think the Cardinals still need to be on TV, and you've indicated that. Not on an app. A lot of the older generation, like my grandparents, watch every single Cardinal game. They're not going to want to use an app to find the game.
Right.
That's legitimate. But if you have some kind of semblance of what you were doing for the last 20, 25 years, your grandparents should be able to find the game.
And they'll be able to find it on the game. There will be in, for lack of a better term, well, let's call them retirement communities, where old people live. Those games, it's incumbent upon teams, and Rob Manfred is very serious about this. Rob Manfred wants games on free TV in the local market. So in the St. Louis region, this is one of the reasons that I believe a Gray Broadcasting has put Matrix together, right? It's channel 32 on free TV. I think that they made this channel with the thought, well, I know they did, because because this is what happened in Arizona. Same company, Gray Broadcasting, now has the Diamondbacks and the Suns on free TV there on a channel. And what are the Blues thinking with the demise of Bally? They're thinking, okay, we can get this and have the Blues and the Cardinals on free TV here in St. Louis on an all-sports channel. That is going to happen, whether it winds up being on Matrix or whether it winds up being on KTVI, KPLR. Somebody is going to have the Cardinals ultimately on free TV.
What do you think the appetite is? And I don't know the answer to this, for folks to go out and buy the app. I don't know if it's going to be as prevalent of people buying the app as maybe these sports franchises think it will be.
I agree. And number one, you have to have a compelling product. But number two, the reason that people cut the cord is because they thought they were paying too much and they wanted something for nothing. The people that cut the cord and complained about not having Cardinal baseball didn't want to pay for a premium product. Well, if they didn't want to pay for a premium product by paying for DirecTV or Spectrum, why are they going to want to pay for the premium product with an app at $19.99 a month?
Exactly. The other part of this, too, is that the Cardinals are very reliant on, just like every team, with fans in the seats. But if you can't promote the different things that you have, if you can't get direct-to-consumer to say, come down to the ballpark for this weekend, we have the Randy Carricker giveaway on Friday, Matthew Rocchio bobblehead on Saturday, Danny Mack has got a banner or whatever on Sunday. If you can't promote those things, the fans don't know.
Yep.
And really, the TV broadcast is kind of a commercial for the team to get people to come to the ballpark. And if people don't know about those things, they're not going to come down.
And there are a couple of things that you can do. Number one, maintain in the region, maintain that free ability for people. But the other part of it is you really do have to have, for the people in Dubuque, the people in Little Rock,
yes,
the people that are in Springfield, Illinois, those people have to have access to a good product. People aren't going to buy a 71-win team in St. Louis or in our region.
If you have a 60-mile radius circled around St. Louis on a weekend, it's something like 60 to 75% of the fan base is outside of that region.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, and you need to make sure I've always said this is a regional team. It's got St. Louis on the front, but this is a regional team. It's the Cardinals in Illinois and Arkansas and Missouri and Iowa. I mean, all these places that they draw from, and if people don't know what's going on, you're not going to get them to come to the ballpark.
And this might be the thing the Cardinals have studied most. They might have studied this more than baseball over the course of the last couple of years. But Bill DeWitt III knows what the fine line is between selling for volume and price. They know the key and best price point for an app, and they know what's going to work best for them. And he told me last week when they made the decision and had the press conference with Chaim Bloom, he said, we've dove in deep on 3 different possibilities with a lot of detail, and whatever happens, whether it's Bally, whether it's MLB, or whether it's the Cardinals handling it, they are going to know how much money they're going to be able to make off of it.
I feel like because of Dan's point that like a lower cost monthly app makes more sense than like a higher cost app and then free TV options for people in St. Louis, just because there's so many fans that aren't in the St. Louis area. Making the app like $7.99 a month and being able to watch every single Cardinals game, no matter whether you live in, Iowa, Nebraska, Montana, Arkansas, what have you, that I think that's the blueprint. That's the model the Cardinals should go with, because that I don't think you can still get people who are into streaming. You can get them in for $9.99 or below a month without them being like, whoa. As soon as it's like $14.99 a month, then it's like, well, hey now, that's a lot of digits there, champ, for per monthly. So if you keep it like $9.99 a month, but again, instead of it being we're pulling in everybody around the Chicago area for the Cubs or White Sox, we're now pulling in a bunch of other disparate areas across these multiple states. I think that's the smarter move.
Okay, so are you guys? If you spend the $19.99 a month, that'd be $120 for a year. If in April, day before opening day, you spend $79.99 for the season, are you cool with that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm cool with that too. I'm fine with spending before. So I get the whole season. I don't have to worry about being charged every month. I've just got that product for $79.99 for the whole season.
I think some fans, though, would be frustrated, and I think some would stay away from it.
Well, there's a lot of fans that grew up or are of the belief that it should be free. Right? We grew up with the Cardinals only on free TV. Now, we were only getting, 30 games a year or something like that. But times they are a-changing. And by the way, their revenue is going to go down. Regardless of what happens, baseball revenue is going to decrease with this scenario unfolding, as opposed to what Bally, before that Fox Sports, before that whatever it was, before that
Prime
existed. Yeah. The money is going to go down for players. You're not going to be paying less, but fewer people are going to be paying for it. And for teams, profit margins, and individual players, their salaries are going to go down.
Coming off the last two seasons that they've had, 2 years ago being awful, last year being frustrating, and basically out of it with a month and a half to go in the season, I wonder if some fans stay away because they're frustrated with the performance, and they say, I'm not paying for that.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, too.
We're in the show me state, and that's incumbent upon the Cardinals to show their potential fans that they have a product that's worthy of purchasing.
Yeah, and I think some people would stay away. I don't know if everybody would. And there's a lot of fans that say, I don't care if they're in last place and out by 25 games. I'm watching Cardinal baseball.
That's where I am.
Yeah. I mean, you watch every game.
Yeah. And I'll pay for it. But I'm weird.
No, you're not. I think there's a ton of fans like that.
Yeah, but there are also fans, and I don't begrudge them, that are only interested in winning.
Yeah.
And a great product that's exciting every single day.
Exciting. They got to have exciting product.
Yeah. And by the way, and that's another tone-deaf aspect of the Cardinals, which is another segment for another day. But for the owner to say, I think this is an exciting team, was really disingenuous. Either that or he just loves baseball, because this was not a fun team to watch.
I guess if you're thinking about players to watch next year, Mason Wynn would be at the top of my list.
Yep.
I enjoy watching Brendan Donovan.
I do too.
With Alec Burleson, if he's hitting better than he did in the second half, I'll watch Alec Burleson. Arenado, still like watching him take a ground ball. I don't like it at $35 million a year.
And Dan, I like watching when he's there, Wilson Contreras play.
Yeah. Plays with energy. Yep. I like that.
And I hope that they can find a way to unlock the talents of Victor Scott II, because I think he can be electrifying.
He would be awesome.
Get him going.
If he could hit, that'll be the biggest question with him.
And if the team's going to be good, we've talked about this already. If the team's going to be good, Jordan Walker has to be great.
I mean, you can't. How else are you going to win with a $135 million payroll?
Yeah. Well, you've got to develop guys. That's the key. You got to get guys playing. That's Dan. That's Matthew. I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Text in your TIOLI to 314-399-9646. 314-399. Yo-ho! TIOLI next on 101 ESPN.
Thursday morning, time to tell you about Stuart from Stuart's American Mortgage. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refinance, or if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things, hey, let's make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stuart's American Mortgage. He will help you every step of the way. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, he'll get you to the closing table fast. And you're asking, how fast? How about 10 days? It'll get you the best interest rate possible, and he also has the bagel loan, and that can help you out too. So what's the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing cost. Stuart is your guy. He makes it easy for you. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends? Give Stuart a call. Call him directly on his personal cell phone, 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440, or you can Google the bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
Time for Take It or Leave It.
Want to say something? Want to put it out there? If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your Take It or Leave It.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Danny Mac, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker, the opening drive, 101 ESPN. Brooke is out, and she will return soon. All right, time for Take It or Leave It. Dan and Matthew, the Yankees haven't been to or won a World Series since 2009. The Mets haven't been in the World Series since 2015, haven't won one since 1986. Take it or leave it. You would like a Subway Series this year.
I think it'd be great for baseball.
I agree.
I think it'd be good for baseball, big market teams, exciting teams, and especially in the Mets, kind of a team of destiny. I think it'd be good for baseball.
I do. I think overall, the best thing for baseball, and we would all hate it, would be Ohtani against Judge, which would be the behemoths, right? The two highest payroll teams. But I'm kind of intrigued by the Mets and Yankees, too.
And if you're sitting in the offices in New York with NBC, CBS, TBS, TNT, I don't care what network you are, you're saying, if I had that product, give me the two New York teams. That's what I want.
By the way, I find it interesting that one of the commercials we see most during these playoff games is the New Balance Ohtani one. Right?
Yeah.
But the other one that I see just as much is the Pepsi with 4 NFL Hall of Famers.
Right. You see that all the time.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was good, though, that Ohtani is on that.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's a good thing for baseball. Doesn't say anything. He's swinging a bat, kind of looking at the camera, smiling.
It's you got next, we got now.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's pretty good. All right, take it or leave it. The format needs to be redone in Major League Baseball. The higher seeds take nearly a week off before playing, and it hasn't benefited them, clearly. And since the 3 wild card format began in 22, 3 of the 9 teams with a bye this year, Cleveland and LA, are on the brink of elimination. So it's showing that it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing to win your division.
Yeah, I'm going to take that they need to change the format. I don't know exactly what that would look like for me. I'd have to put some thought into it. But this clearly isn't working the way they thought it was going to.
Let me give you an interesting way that the KBO does this. They have a dramatic bye structure. So their playoff structure is number 5 against number 4. Winner plays number 3. Then the winner plays 2. Winner plays 1. Number 1 seed effectively has about a 2-week bye in between of the regular season and the start of their postseason. So we're not necessarily fixing the problem. What's interesting, though, that number 1 seed has won 20 out of the 23 that they've had.
So they only have to win one series.
Yeah.
And the other team has gone through their pitching over the course of, 4
Yes.
rounds as they get. That'd be interesting.
But you got 2 weeks off. That's a lot.
That is.
That's a lot in baseball.
Yeah,
but
although
you can line up your rotation and get it set the way you want.
Dodgers could get some guys back for the maybe not, but some guys back from injury. All right, Matthew, what do you got?
Jeffrey on the YouTube chat thinks Subway Series is bad for baseball, which, as much as I hate watching blue bloods play each other, no, it's objectively, that's always interesting.
I think sometimes you could say that, but I think now, because it's been such a long time for the Yankees and the Mets, I think now is different.
It's not like we're 75 and we've gotten sick of it.
Yeah, we've got generations here. If you were born in 2009, you're 15 now, right? 19. So 20-year-olds probably don't remember the Yankees winning the World Series.
Did you guys get burnt out on the Red Sox and the Yankees? I thought it was compelling baseball.
It was great, yeah.
No, I got burnt out on Lakers, Celtics, and the Patriots, but not really Red Sox, Yankees.
Yeah. And I think this time, because
incredible.
both of those teams are fun, they both have, Lindor and Judge, you've got 2 great superstars with great smiles. I think there's a lot to like about a series like
Here's
that.
the thing, though. Also, just like across baseball history, you got what was the St. Louis, the Cardinals Browns streetcar series?
1944.
What you had. Giants, Oakland played in a series against each other. Obviously, you've had a Subway Series before. I love the idea of these intra-city World Series. I know it's always a big city who has multiple teams, but I can't. Other than the one in 2000, I don't think I've ever seen one in my lifetime.
Yeah, right. So
I like the nostalgia and the novelty of it. I wish it happened more often.
Are you burnt out on the Chiefs?
a lot of people are, but I'm not.
I'm not either. I love watching Mahomes.
Yeah. I'm about the performance.
Yeah.
I don't mind excellence. A lot of people just don't like excellence.
And you love Andy Reid.
Andy, the Big Red is great.
Take it or leave it. J.J. Weatherholt isn't talked about enough, and he may be the most important player in the organization.
I don't know if he might be the most important player in the organization, but I will grant you that he isn't talked about enough. In talking to people that worked directly with him, he has exceptional bat-to-ball skills, something he'd like a Luis Arraez quality bat-to-ball skills. And the other guy to keep an eye on there, guy who turned it around, is Chase Davis.
Yeah.
He was down at Palm Beach and was unbelievable after the first couple of months. He got off to a bad start and figured it out. But Weatherholt and Davis are on the fast track now.
I would say Quinn Matthews would be in that conversation, who had just an outstanding, the left-handed pitcher, outstanding year. You got to have pitching. We talked about that. You get a lefty starter. That would be somebody that would have an important role in my organization for sure.
And another thing that if you can get him going, and maybe you got something out of McGreevy, everybody's always said to me, and I'm sure the same thing has been said to you, the Tink Hence profiles as a relief pitcher, probably a closer. The more starters you have, the more you can use Hence out of the bullpen for when Helsley isn't here anymore.
And who's to say that he wouldn't start in the bullpen and then move to a starter's role, which has been something that a lot of people have done over the years.
All the pitchers
notable.
like the idea.
Yeah, for sure. Adam Wainwright being the most notable.
Right.
It worked to get his feet wet and then move to the rotation.
And it didn't happen this year or in St. Louis, but Jordan Hicks is now essentially a starting pitcher.
Yeah. It worked out.
DJ Pattycakes points out, I even forgot to mention this one, on I-70 series, obviously in 85. I mean, I wasn't alive for that one, so that would have been awesome to
It was
witness
awesome.
that. Are you kidding me?
I got on national TV wearing my red Cardinal afro wig.
Did you?
Yeah, Good Morning America.
Is that right?
Yeah, I did. And you know what else was cool about that? This was back in the day, obviously, but there was a game that day, and the Chiefs didn't draw then. Nobody went to Chiefs games in Kansas City because they weren't that good. The Chiefs Nation is kind of like Cardinal Nation. The Chiefs Kingdom wasn't always that thing. So the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, played the Chiefs the day of Game 2, the Sunday afternoon. And we went to that game, but Whitey and George Brett went to that Rams-Chiefs game. Manager of the Cardinals, third baseman for the Royals. They went and saw the Rams and Chiefs that day, and then the World Series game at night.
Do you guys think that they've talked too much about George Brett in this Kansas City Yankees series?
Can't talk too much about George Brett.
I agree.
I didn't know the history of that, and I've learned about it, and I've done some research about it because of how much they've talked about it. So that's kind of fascinating to me. Again, learning positive things about Kansas City usually isn't in my daily to-do list. So that was kind of fun. In fact, the funny thing about that is I was dating a girl from Kansas City when I was at Mizzou. And when I met her parents, the first thing their mom did was she put a glass down in front of me to give me a drink and fill it up with water, and it was a celebratory glass from the 1985 World Series. I was like, well, this feels a little pointed. I feel like this is a little bit purposeful. It was definitely a shot right across the bow.
If they're proud of that, more power to him.
I think the George Brett stuff has been great.
It's great. Yeah, he's fantastic.
They had a long interview with him. I think it was last night in the game, and then they've talked a lot about the history between the Royals and the Yankees. And like you said, Matthew, for a younger generation, they don't know that stuff. It educates them a little bit, so I like it.
It's great.
If you go to Mizzou, you get a little bit of that cooked in.
I bet you do.
For some random reason, but it's different.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Randy.
And thank you very much for your texts. We do appreciate them. Coming up, should the Cardinals be under the microscope for their managerial hires and fires over the last decade? That's next on 101 ESPN.
On the day's top stories, it's the opening drive's fresh take.
In St. Louis, your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mac, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker, and Terry Francona has been named the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. He gets a 3-year contract, one of the most accomplished managers of his era. Won a couple of World Series with Boston. He's got almost 2,000 career wins.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. And he wanted the Cardinal job when Mike Matheny took over for Tony La Russa. When the Cardinals were looking for a manager, when Tony La Russa retired, Terry Francona interviewed for the job, and the Cardinals did not hire him. Last year, Skip Schumacher, the NL Manager of the Year. The Cardinals knew him intimately, and he did interview for the job when Oli Marmol ultimately got it. And this year, Mike Shildt has his team deep in the playoffs. Of course, he departed St. Louis because of the infamous philosophical differences. And you look at now a 12-year stretch from 2012 to 2024 where 3 really good managers have been either with the Cardinals or wanted the Cardinals job and didn't get it. And the Cardinals have not been to a World Series since 2013. And I think we can fairly say that the managerial exploits of Mike Matheny and Oli Marmol especially have caused some consternation in Cardinal Nation. You wonder if the Cardinals should be, I wonder if the Cardinals should be more under the microscope for the choices they've made in the dugout.
The one that sticks out to me is Matheny more than any of them, just because he was given the keys to a Maserati, in my opinion, and they knew that they had really good young pitching coming. They had Carlos Martinez coming. They had Trevor Rosenthal. They had Berkman back for another season. They went outside Beltran. You had Matt Holliday in the prime of his career. I mean, that was a good team. You had Matt Carpenter coming and was, putting up big numbers, especially in 13. That one, to me, hurts a little bit more. He gave the job to an inexperienced manager, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's dealing with the media, obviously your in-game moves, especially with your bullpen, setting your lineups, and that, to me, was kind of a plug-and-play lineup because you had so many good players. That's the one that stuck out to me.
And when you think about interaction with fans and through the fans with the media, okay, so if the media is indeed a conduit to the fans, there's nobody in baseball over the last 20 years that has been better at communicating with the fans than Francona.
Yes.
If he might be tied for first with Joe Madden, but there are very few, if any, that are better at communicating not only with the fans but with the players than Terry Francona. So I look at that one too. I think that is a reasonable question for the Cardinals. Why Matheny rather than Francona? And what it comes back to is something that we've talked about a lot: perception or reality, whatever it is. The perception is out there that Mo wants a manager that's more malleable, that he has more control over.
Do you think that La Russa was good with the media?
I thought he was great.
I did too.
As good as it got.
And that's kind of the misconception out there. I always get people that say to me, how did you deal with Tony La Russa? Tony La Russa was amazing to me and amazing to most of the media, and understand that was part of his job. And I think Mike really struggled with that, talking about Mike Matheny. Yeah. It got a lot better when he was in Kansas City, but that's kind of what we're talking about, is the growing pains that he had early on in his managerial career. And it happened here in St. Louis, where it was a really good team. And there was just, and I'm not saying that if you talk to the media, you're going to win games, but there was things that he did, even in-game moves, that I just thought were a little out there at times. And it just, if you have experience in that spot, maybe you don't see those kind of moves being made.
Yeah. And then the big one, obviously, right now is Shildt doing what he's doing in San Diego. And clearly they don't have the philosophical differences, he and A.J. Preller, that Shildt had with the Cardinals. And we don't, and probably will never know exactly what the philosophical differences were. But I can tell you this: whatever they were, I don't think the Cardinals worked hard enough with him to solve the problem. Because if they had, at least you give him another year.
Yeah.
Right? To fix things during the offseason, get him together with HR or whomever, whatever the philosophical differences were, you go to him and say, okay, we've got a problem. We need to try to fix this. Because clearly he is a great leader and a great manager, and there might be a lot of people or one person in an organization that doesn't like him, but his players respect him and reflect him.
What do you say about Oli? I mean, here's a situation where, a lot of people are frustrated with Oli Marmol, and there's no doubt. I went back and looked at this. Tony La Russa, in his first 4 seasons with the Cardinals, had 2 winning seasons, had 2 losing seasons. And I look back at Oli last year and this year. you got to have the players, and they didn't have the players. Now, I thought one of the things that he did really well was the bullpen. Randy, they were 64-4 when leading after 7 innings this year. I thought he handled the bullpen, and his management of the bullpen was great. His matchups, when he would get right-handers against right-handers, the ERA was 3. Lefties against lefties, ERA was 2. I don't think you can, knock him for how he managed the bullpen. And then on his lineups, he used all kinds of different combinations, like 100. I was looking it up, like 121, 125 different combinations to try to figure something out. Yep. That to me falls on the players.
And I don't know how much control Ollie has over his coaching staff, but I can tell you this: that Walker didn't get better here. He goes down, and hopefully he gets better. Gorman regressed here. There were definitely players that got better. Andre Palante got better here, but there were a lot of players that regressed. Mason Wynn, you got to give him credit where credit is due. Mason Wynn got a lot better, but a lot of players have regressed. I think the other thing that I look at is the lack of communication through the media with the fans in trying to explain what's going on with Jordan Walker. Okay, he's going to be up here, and we're going to use him only against left-handed pitching, and he's here for a few games, and he's gone. The entire, and this is not all Ollie's fault, because he has been put in some difficult situations, but the Contreras situation last year was difficult. I think the communication, Victor Scott. Okay, Victor Scott's going to be here the rest of the year. We're going to teach him how to play. He needs to be here to work at the major league level. 3 days later, he's back in the minor leagues. I think there needs to be more concrete answers that are given. And I always hated the Parcells-Belichick one voice thing. But maybe that's what needs to happen, because it seems like a lot of times Ollie will say one thing and it'll be refuted by Mo the next day or with his moves within the next week.
I would look at player development too. Ollie is tremendous. He was really good as a manager in the minor leagues. And his whole point was, yeah, we'd love to win games, but we're here to prepare players to get to the major leagues. There is more teaching being done right now at the major league level than ever, because these players are not prepared to be major league players. And I think that's a check in the box of why you bring them back, because you're going to have a lot of these young guys that we talked about. You just mentioned a bunch of them. They're going to have to learn, unfortunately, at the major league level. So you better have somebody that can do this job, and it seems like Ollie is that guy.
And you need to have guys. And by the way, not every player is asking to be taught or coached either. That's a real problem. But you need a staff that can get through to the players with the messages that you want to deliver.
Yeah, and you got rid of the hitting coach. You got to be better with the runners in scoring position. There's got to be approach with that. What are you doing? What are you thinking in that particular spot? I guess the big question for me coming out of this season, outside of runners in scoring position, is why isn't Jordan Walker to the level that you thought he might be?
Yeah.
And where's the disconnect with that?
And you basically, if he turns out to be good, you basically wasted 2 years of his career.
Seems that way. And I can't figure it out, Randy. I mean, he goes down to the minor leagues and at times puts up numbers. And then I thought his final month was pretty good here. You know, you could see him turning the corner. But if this organization is going to turn the corner, unfortunately for him, a lot of it is on his shoulders. And Nolan Gorman.
Bottom line, I think it's fair to say that the Cardinals could have done a better job of hiring managers ever since Tony La Russa retired. I don't think that's unreasonable.
We miss Tony.
Oh, yeah, we do.
There's a lot of people that would love to see Tony in his prime back.
Coming up, the Blues are back in action tonight. They take on the San Jose Sharks, and we're going to talk to Hall of Famer Bernie Federko about that game and this Blues season. Next on 101 ESPN. Big savings this week at Schnucks. When you go into Schnucks today, you'll see big money off several customer favorites. Special sales with major money off items you love. So you need to check them out because they're amazing discounts you don't see every day. And when you hear these deals, you'll know what I'm talking about. How about certified Angus beef T-bone steak value pack at $8.99 a pound at Schnucks. Choose from these kinds of apples, Fuji or Gala or Granny Smith or Red Delicious, just 99 cents a pound. If you're thinking about making an apple pie, head to Schnucks and get a great deal on apples. How about sweet potatoes at just 99 cents a pound? Hostess multi-pack snacks, just $1.99. Get some ho-hos or ding-dongs or Twinkies, just $1.99. And certified Angus beef porterhouse steak, a value pack at just $9.99 a pound when you go to Schnucks. And don't forget to download the Schnucks Rewards app before you go. Take advantage of these great prices and get 2% back on everything that you purchase when you go to Schnucks today. Great prices today and tomorrow at Schnucks.
Blues as we head into the Blues booth on 101 ESPN. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors. Find your perfect new floor at boardwalkhardwood.com.
Opened up Tuesday with a win at Seattle. They play the San Jose Sharks tonight. 9:30 game, 8:30 pregame here on 101 ESPN. And then they wrap up their season opening road trip in Vegas tomorrow with a 9 o'clock start. And that's 8 o'clock with the pregame here on 101 ESPN. And tomorrow night's game will be the first game of the year on Bally. And Bernie Federko will be part of the Bally coverage again in 24-25. And the Hall of Famer joins Dan and Randy now on 101 ESPN. Good morning, Bernie. How you doing?
Good morning, Randy. I'm doing great, thanks.
Well, let's talk about the start, the first game. What were your impressions of Game 1 for the Blues in Seattle the other day?
Well, I think it's work in progress. I think they're still kind of feeling their way around trying to get the line combination set. I thought it was a great response that they were able to score a power play goal. That really got them going again. And they got great goaltending. I mean, Bennington was Bennington, the Bennington we saw last year. So I think it's always nice to win that first game, especially on the road. So there's still a lot of work, though. There's no question about it. But it's always nice to get 2 points.
First time to visit with you, Bernie, during this Blues season. Just in a general sense, what are your expectations for this team? What do you think?
You know, Danny, I think that this team is kind of where they were last year. I think this is a team that's going to battle for a playoff spot. They came 6 points short last year. I think that they have improved as a team. They've got great goaltending. But I think this is a team that still is in transition. The new guys that have come in, there's a lot of youth on this team. I think we're going to see, Bolduc probably get a chance to play. I'm very optimistic this year. I think last year, I think we all knew it was going to be a kind of a tough year. It was more the first transition year, but I think that the skill level is up right now. I mean, obviously, all the other teams in the league and the division have got better too. So you've got to keep up with the Joneses. But certainly, I think this is a team that will I think give that effort each and every night, like they did in Seattle to try to pull away points, and hopefully they can be a playoff team this year.
Bernie, with guys like Bolduc and Holloway and Broberg that haven't played a ton, you were a guy, and you played with other young guys on your team that was a young player that was trying to get better every day at the NHL level. What are the keys to that? How do you get better as a young player at the NHL level?
I think most of it is effort, Randy. I mean, certainly, you learn from the older guys around you. You learn the nuances of how to play in certain situations, and the experience, I think, just helps you. And I think it's the will to want to win, to want to be better. And I think that each and every player that gets a chance in the league, I mean, some of the guys are high draft picks, and you've got a lot to prove. The guys that were not drafted high or fringe players, they get the opportunity to get ice time, to prove that they want more ice time to become better players. And I think that's, there's a lot to do with trying to make a living. And the better you are, the more you play, the more you get paid. And I think that's the whole key of trying to be better. And certainly when you become a part of a team, you want a taste of the Stanley Cup. I mean, there's no question that every guy that ever gets a chance to play in the league, the one goal that they have is to be on a Stanley Cup winning team. And certainly when you're given that opportunity, no matter if you start with 1 minute a game and you try to build it into making yourself a 20-minute a game player. So it's certainly it comes with just experience and I think the want and the need to be a better player each and every day.
What about patience from the coaching staff? Because with a lot of teams where there's an expectation of winning, if you're a young player, you don't see the ice anymore. But if you're a young player that makes a mistake, there has to be an understanding, right? And Drew Bannister's great about this, that, okay, you're going to make a mistake, but you learn from it, and you just have to eliminate that next time.
Yeah, and I think the good thing with some of the young guys here is that they've played under Drew when they were in the American League, too. So Drew knows the young talent that he's got on his team, and I think that he's willing to work with them. And I think it's a great opportunity for Drew. I mean, this is his first full year as an NHL coach. He wants to be a part of the NHL, and he wants to prove that he is a good NHL coach. So I think that with that being said, the young players are going to get the opportunity. The veteran players certainly are going to get the opportunity, and I think that Drew will learn a lot from some of the veteran players as well. But I mean, it takes all 23 on the roster to be successful, and certainly I think that everybody wants to be a part of a winning franchise. Obviously,
Bernie, a lot of talk about Buchnevich being at center. You would know a thing or two about that. What are the biggest adjustments he's going to have to make if they stick with this transition of him centering that second line?
Well, Danny, I mean, to play center iceman is more, as a center iceman, you're playing, the 200-foot game. I mean, your responsibilities are at both ends of the ice. I mean, if you're a winger, a lot of times you're just coming back, you're coming into your corner, but then you're going back to make sure that you cover your point. You're only covering really one side of the ice. With the center iceman, he's going from corner to corner, from end to end, and I think that's the biggest adjustment. But, you've got to make sure that you're covering up for a mistake that's made by a winger or a defenseman to come in and help. But a big part of it is taking faceoffs now, and we see how important puck possession is right now. And I think that's something that Pavel's got to get better at, and he will as time goes on. But to be honest, Danny, I think that this is still an experiment. I know they want him to play center, but I think in the long range, we'll probably see Dvorsky at some point in time, hopefully even this year, get a chance to come up and be a center iceman on this team and be a future center iceman on this hockey club, because that's what he is. But I personally would like to see, Pavel back on the wing at some point in time. But he's willing to try it, and I think that's says a lot about him, is that he wants to be a part of this organization. He wants to do what he has to do to make them a better team. But it's an adjustment. I think a lot of times it's easier to get from being a center iceman to a winger, because there's less for you responsibilities for you, but now to go from being a winger to a center iceman is much harder.
Bernie, last thing from me, and Dan and I talked about this earlier. You've got back-to-back here, pretty bad, let's be honest about it, San Jose team, and then Vegas tomorrow. Would you go with Hofer tonight and Binnington tomorrow, or Binnington tonight and Hofer tomorrow? What are you going to do in the nets?
I expect that they're probably going to go with Hofer tonight. I mean, San Jose, I think the Blues lost to San Jose all 3 times last year. So, even as bad as they were, as their record was. So, I don't know. You know what? I think that, a lot of times coaches look at it and say, well, we got to get the guaranteed 2 points. So you play your number one guy tonight and then play your backup tomorrow. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Hofer tonight. I mean, Hofer had a great season last year. He's probably chomping at the bit, to make sure that he gets into a game as soon as possible. So either way, though, the goaltending has been so good. Goaltending was so good last year, and I think both these guys, I don't think it really matters, especially for the guys that are playing behind them. Whoever's in there is there. But I expect that Hofer is going to be in the net, but that means probably Binnington will be.
That's the Hall of Famer, Bernie Federko. Looking forward to seeing you getting things underway tomorrow night on Bally Sports. Bernie, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks, fellas. You guys have a great day.
You too. Take care. That is Bernie with us on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got a returning fighter, and so we'll bring you the fight next on 101 ESPN. Hey, when I needed a fence, I went to Chesterfield Fence and Deck. And when you need a fence or a deck, or if you want to upgrade a sunroom or a screen room, or maybe you want to do a pergola in your backyard, the company to call is Chesterfield Fence and Deck. 56 years in St. Louis. They've got a beautiful facility that you can visit down in Chesterfield Valley and see with your eyes and feel with your hands exactly what they do. They are remarkable, and you'll love working with them. They're great people. They're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and they do such fantastic work. Everything that Chesterfield Fence and Deck does is guaranteed by a 5-year labor warranty, plus numerous material warranties as well. And mention me during the month of October, and you can get 20% off your next installed outdoor project with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. They're on the web at chesterfieldfence.com. You can call them at 800-300-4054 to set up your appointment. They'll come out to your house, provide you a free, no-obligation project design. It's a great St. Louis company that I love working with, and you will too. It's Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Tigers 3-0 over the Guardians. They are now up in that series 2-1. The Mets finish out their series over the Phillies with a 4-1 victory. They're the first ones to move on with a 3-1 series lead. Yankees and Royals. Yankees 3-2 over the Royals as they take a 2-1 lead into that series. And the Dodgers with a big 8-0 win over the Padres. They tie that thing up at 2 games apiece as it rolls in to the clinching Game 5. Your Blues back in action tonight. They face off against the San Jose Sharks. It's a late one tonight since they are in San Jose. 9:30 p.m. puck drop. Catch the pregame show right here on 101 ESPN starting at 8:30. That is your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
8:36, 101 ESPN, the morning drive with Rock. I'm Dan. Randy is out of the studio. We welcome in to the conversation Nick, who beat Randy yesterday in their meeting, first round. Nick, how we doing? How you feeling? It is emotional after winning round 1. What do we got?
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am exhausted. I had a doubleheader last night, and I haven't even moved. I play hockey still.
Oh, boy.
And my old body can't take it like I used to.
How old are you?
That's impressive.
I'm 38 years old. I'm an old man.
You're not that old. Come on, there's
wanna
guys
see
in the
you out there,
NHL.
Dan.
No, I retired. I'm old. I retired. 38. You're strong. You're good. You're working it. You're getting the puck deep. You're getting in the corners. You're slashing. You probably had a fight or two. It's perfect. All right, you ready for ready to go for question 1?
Yes, sir.
All right, boasting names like Jack Ham and LeVar Arrington, which school has been known as Linebacker U? Is it Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State?
Who is the linebacker you mentioned?
Jack Ham and LeVar Arrington.
Oh, Redskins guy. And the options one more time.
Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, known as Linebacker U.
Penn State.
Final answer?
Yep.
All right, on to question 2.
The Cardinals have appeared in 14 NLCSs in team history, which is the only team they've beat with a sweep. Is it the Giants, the Braves, or the Dodgers?
I'm going to say Braves.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Not a lot of conviction on that one, but I think you're going to like the result. All right, here we go with question 3. After being traded to the Packers, which QB did Brett Favre replace because of poor play and injury? Was it Ty Detmer, Mark Brunell, Don Majkowski?
This is the quarterback that Brett Favre replaced?
Yes.
I'm going to say Ty Detmer.
Okay. Final answer?
Yes.
All right, on to question 4, Nick.
Which member of the 2019 Stanley Cup champion Blues became just the 29th player in NHL history to win an Olympic gold, a world championship, and the Stanley Cup? Was that Alex Pietrangelo, Vladimir Tarasenko, or Jay Bouwmeester?
Jay Bouwmeester.
All right, we'll double-check the score. We will bring in Randy Carricker. How you feeling about this one, Nick?
I mean, I feel okay about my answers. I just think Randy's going to crush me.
Well, he you did well, and anytime you should be happy with how you did. But anytime you do well, you know that Randy Carricker is going to be in the rearview mirror at some point in the race, and so that'll be the big question.
Thank
you very much. Speaking of Randy Carricker, Randy Carricker joins us in studio. Randy, say hello to Nick. You remember him from yesterday.
Nick, welcome back. How you doing?
I am doing well, Randy.
Good. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing. We do appreciate it.
Nick is a little tired. He had a doubleheader of hockey last night.
Oh, well, that's notable, and we give you credit for being a gamer and being here today after the doubleheader of hockey. What did your last game end? What time did your head hit the pillow, Nick?
My head hit the pillow at about 1 a.m. You can't
man.
go to sleep after that.
No,
Yeah.
you're right.
It's intense.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, good luck today.
All right, here we go with
Thank you,
question
sir.
1.
Yes.
Boasting names like Jack Ham and LeVar Arrington, which school has been known as Linebacker U?
Ooh. Darn it.
I know you're going to think about this one for a long time. Just say it, will you?
Pittsburgh, Penn.
Unbelievable.
I'm going to go with Penn State.
Yeah.
Shane Conlon.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
Randy,
Question 2.
Randy, the Cardinals have appeared in 14 National League Championship Series in team history, which is the only team they've beat in a sweep in the National League Championship Series.
Well, they swept the Braves in 1982 in the NLCS. So I will go with the Atlanta Braves.
Final answer?
Yes, sir. I guess if that's the only one, that's got to be it.
After being traded to the Packers, which QB did Brett Favre replace because of poor play and injury?
Injury. The Magic Man. Number 7, Don Mikowski.
Boy, not a lot of thinking in these, Randall. A lot of conviction.
Well, I'm convicted.
I like it.
The Magic Man. I love Don Mikowski. When I was a kid, I had a number 13 Don Horn jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, he replaced Bart Starr as the Packers quarterback.
I was watching the Bart Starr documentary just the other night.
Pretty good, huh?
It was very good.
You remember Lynn Dickey's restaurant over here at Union Station back in the day? Lynn Dickey, number 12 for the Packers, played quarterback.
I mean, the last name Horn
Don Horn.
has to
number 15.
have some of the highest, per capita, success in NFL history. You got Joe, Tony,
JC, yeah.
JC. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of. I mean, I can't imagine there's a lot more horns than the 4 we just mentioned, and they all were pretty solid players or
Yeah.
to pretty good players.
Good point, yeah.
That name's got some cachet in the league. Okay, Randy, which member of the 2019 Stanley Cup champion Blues became just the 29th player in NHL history to win an Olympic gold, World Championship, and Stanley Cup?
Okay, so there's only 2 possibilities here. Olympic gold, World Championship, and Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's got to be Bo or Petro. And I am going to go with Jay Bomeister. I'm going to go with Bo over Petro by a smidgen.
Well,
It's a coin flip.
speaking of a smidgen, speaking of a coin flip, that's how I would describe the margin.
Oh, man.
In
What a
today's
fight.
fight. Extremely close here. Does Randy roll on with a victory stopping Nick, or does Nick go for a shot at the Hall of Fame on a Friday? Ring that bell.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Just win, baby.
New wrinkle.
I hit the wrong button.
It still worked.
I liked it. It worked.
Yeah.
Nick, I'm so sorry you got 3 correct, but Randy hit the jack. He got all 4, and he beat you today in the fight 4-3.
Well, that's okay. I need a consolation prize here. I just want to give a shout out to my home away from home at Porsche St. Louis. I got a Porsche waiting for all 4 of you guys.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. We'll have to talk to you about that one later.
Keep him on the line.
Yeah, I'm going to say I have the phone number saved. Let's go to the question and answers. Boasting names like Jack Ham and LeVar Arrington, which school has been known as Linebacker U? Penn State. My personal favorite one, Paul Posluszny. It sounds like it's the most linebacker name ever
Yeah, it is.
created, and the fact that he wore a cowboy collar while playing linebacker at Penn State is the most perfect football aesthetic that I think has ever
Yeah,
been
it really
invented.
is. Yeah. Good.
The Cardinals have appeared in 14 NLCSs in team history, which is the only one they've won with a sweep. It was, in fact, 1982 against the Braves, which I guess was the first NLCS they would have played in, right?
It is. And they would have lost the series had they not been rained out in
Rained
game
out.
1. Phil Niekro was shoving that day.
Yep.
He got rained out, and then the Cardinals came on with a sweep.
Ah, okay. After being traded to the Packers, which quarterback did Brett Favre replace because of poor play and injury? It was, in fact, the Magic Man, Don Mikowski. Ty Detmer was on the bench while Mikowski was injured. Brett Favre had 4 fumbles, and they were down by a touchdown, and they decided not to bench Favre and go to Detmer, and they kept going with Brett Favre. He would start the next week because of an injury to Mikowski, and then he would then go on his Iron Man streak and would continue on.
One of the all-time great things in documentaries is Mike Holmgren saying, he would say about Favre out on the field, no. Yes.
Imagine having 4 fumbles and not getting benched. When you're already a backup quarterback. That's insane.
Tony Banks.
There you go.
That's a good one.
Which member of the 2019 Stanley Cup Blues became just the 29th player in NHL history to win an Olympic gold, World Championship, and the Stanley Cup? And, of course, he completed this feat when he raised the Stanley Cup, and that was Jay Bouwmeester, who already had the gold medal and the World Championship in his pocket and became the 29th member of that club. And it was a 4-3 win for Randy Carricker in the fight today. Thank you again, Nick, for joining the fight and joining the show today.
Thanks, guys. Have a good show. I listen every morning.
Thank you, Nick.
Well, we
do
appreciate
that very much. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, the Mets finish things off, and Francisco Lindor might be making that contract worth it. That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, you should stop by the Fenton Barn Grill. Say hi to my buddy Chuck Nash. He's the manager over at the Fenton Barn Grill, and he is such a Mizzou football fan, and he has set College Football Saturday up for college football fans at Fenton Barn Grill. It's the best place to go for Saturday college football. The Fenton Barn Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton, just 2 minutes from the soccer park, and they have amazing Modelo and Coors and Miller Lite specials. They have great food specials. They have a spectacular setup of appetizers, 6 different appetizers for $6 a piece, and the superb staff. And you'll absolutely love being served by the group over there. That includes Alicia and Casey. The whole weekend gang is fantastic, and you'll have a great time. Jamie and Dawn and Rachel will also say hi to you at the Fenton Barn Grill. And if you aren't a football person, well, you can watch hockey when the Blues are playing, and you can just stop by for a great lunch, maybe after golf, or a great dinner. It's the Fenton Barn Grill. Learn more at FentonBarnGrill.com. You can find them on Facebook. And by all means, when you stop by today, say hi to the feisty redhead Kelly. Ask for her autograph. Say hi to Megan. Say hi to Casey. And tell them Randy sent you at the Fenton Barn Grill.
pitch. Swinging a drive towards the gap in right center. It's pretty deep. It's back near the wall. It's gone. It's gone. Francisco Lindor. He may have just outdone himself. He has hit a grand slam into the Phillies bullpen in right center field. The Mets are leading by a score of 4-1. They were famished for the big hit all night, and Francisco Lindor just provided a feast. Mets 4, Phillies 1 here in the 6th inning.
Howie Rose the call last night on the Mets radio network, and Francisco Lindor propels New York into the NLCS with a 4-1 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies. Dan, I'm a big believer that if you sign a player to a contract for any amount of money, and that player is a key part of you going to or winning a World Series, that the contract is worth it. Francisco Lindor is in the midst of a 10-year, $341 million contract with the New York Mets. He's making $32 million a year. He did in 2022, 23, this year, and he will through 2031. If Francisco Lindor is, well, he's already going to be a key part of any Mets World Series appearance or victory. If they win the World Series this year, every penny of that $341 million is going to be worth it.
Ooh, that's a lot of money for one World Series.
It is, but what would Steve Cohen give to win a World Series?
Oh, yeah. And he said, when he took over, he said, if we're not World Series champions in 5 years, it's a failure. So you got to sign the right guy, and Lindor seems to be that guy. I mean, he's a 30-30 candidate every single year. He plays a premium position in shortstop, and he answers the bell every game. I give him credit. He plays every single game. He's loved by his teammates. I loved how he ran the bases last night. Maybe I'm an old dude, and I just like it when guys drop the bat and don't fling the bat and start pumping their chest and all that stuff.
Just doing his job, right?
He just did his job. Now, it's not to say he doesn't do that sometimes, but I just liked it last night.
And I think in the 6th inning, he knew where the game was.
Yes.
Right? If you flip your bat, you have a 4-1 lead over the Phillies. All it takes is Harper and Castellanos to get on base, or Schwarber and Harper to get on base, Castellanos to hit one out, and all of a sudden it's a tie game. He knew that.
I think also if you're the Mets or even the Yankees or the Dodgers, to an extent the Chicago teams, you have to have a star. And so I think the money that they spend is not only trying to win a World Series and to the value that you gave it, that if you win one, it means something, but you got to have a star or stars. I mean, that's the thing. He wasn't going to stay in Cleveland. You knew that wasn't going to happen. So you might as well have a big market team come in and scoop him up, and that's what the Mets have done.
And let me throw another thing out there. When we're talking about big money, the Mets signed former Milwaukee executive David Stearns to a 5-year contract for $50 million. Almost immediately turned things around. The Phillies signed Dave Dombrowski. Almost immediately turned things around. The Dodgers, they signed Andrew Friedman, almost immediately turned things around. Took a little while for A.J. Preller, but given the resources in San Diego, he's turned things around. You can see the same thing in the American League with the changes that the Royals have made in their front office with Rob Pigelow replacing Dayton Moore. Cleveland has been great for a long time, as the Yankees have in terms of the front office. And then Detroit making their changes, most notably hiring the manager, A.J. Hinch. Hiring the right people to lead your organization probably doesn't get, and it's not sexy, probably doesn't get enough of our attention.
What about spending big money? And that's the other part of this. Now, some of the teams you just mentioned aren't spending big. I mean, the Detroit payroll is nothing, and yet they find themselves close to the league championship series. But when you look in New York, you look at the Cubs, you look at the Dodgers, the Mets and the Yankees obviously are spending big money. There's something to that, but there's also something to having the right guy, drafting and developing an organization, and that's what a lot of teams are trying to do. It's just tough to do. You got to hit with the right guys in terms of your draft, and then you got to be able to develop said player, and not all teams are doing that. So you got to credit the low-market teams for what they're doing to get into postseason play.
And some teams can afford to make the Scherzer or Verlander mistake. The Mets basically paid both of those guys this year. But they recognize, okay, these two guys that are, 37, 38, 40 years old, they aren't going to be able to do it for us like we need it done. So they were able to get rid of those guys, plug in some new starting pitching, and it's worked better for them. And I think that as time goes along, the Mets I know Cohen wants to spend a lot, but Stearns will be able to get by on not a shoestring, but on a lesser budget than the Mets have had and employed over the last couple of years.
Now, what do you do with Pete Alonso? After the postseason he's had, and he's been great with the media, he's kind of the face of the franchise with Lindor, free agent to be. I think you got to bring him back, don't you?
I think you do, too. I don't think that, number one, you can't get outbid. You're the Mets.
Right.
You can't get outbid for the guy. And with as far as things have gone now and what a key piece he's been, it's one thing if a guy produces during the regular season. He's produced during the playoffs for them now. And I think you have to keep him around.
Yeah, and what he's done, recency bias, I think, is part of this, especially if they win the World Series. You run it back with some of your prime players, guys in their prime. And that is Lindor for a number of years, still after this season. Mm-hmm. But Pete Alonso is that guy. He's hitting key home runs, and you're the Mets. You're in that market. You can't see him go away.
And they gave Nimmo the contract, and Nimmo is like the quintessential Met.
Yeah.
He's great. Marte is in the perfect spot now to be the fourth best player on his team.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't, when he was in Pittsburgh and he was the best player on his team, it wasn't going to work.
No.
But he's in a perfect spot right now.
If you're the Mets and you're looking to sign a guy, you have to do the background check of what they're going to be like in the media. Mm-hmm. If they're not good with the media and you sign a player, I mean, we've seen that before. Vince Coleman comes to mind, with what he dealt with in New York, and Bobby Bonilla, what he dealt with in New York. There are certain players that just can't handle the pressure of playing for the Mets or the Yankees, but also how they deal with the media. You got to have the right guy.
Okay, here's a question for you. If you're the Mets, do you sign Alonso or Soto or both?
Well, I think they'd have a chance to sign both, but I'm going Pete Alonso. I bring my guy. He's been here through thick and thin. I bring him back. Now, I may try to jack up the price on other teams and throw a nice little contract. And if he bites, then we got both, and they can afford both. But I'm probably looking at Pete Alonso just because of what he's done here in this postseason.
I agree with that, but they want to draw more people than the Yankees. I think you sign both, and Steve Cohen could afford it.
Yeah. Can you imagine that, though, if you get the crosstown guy and the number one free agent? But you're going to be investing. Probably Pete Alonso is over $200 million. Mm-hmm. Soto's going to get close to $5 million.
Yep.
So that's two players at $7 million.
And then you've got Lindor already
at $341 million.
Yeah.
So that's $1 billion wrapped up into three players. That's amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
At least Scherzer's off the books.
He is off the books. He's getting paid by everybody this year.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of money from a lot of people.
He's got the Nationals, the Dodgers, the Mets, Texas.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, those are the four.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
There's only 30 teams.
Yeah.
I got to read this text. I'm sorry, Dan, but this is the first text this person has sent in to us, which is insane to me. This is what they choose to go with. You said something just so incredulous, Dan, they had to respond. 618. Dan clutching his pearls at bat flipping is the antiquated thinking that keeps this baseball town and culture stuck in neutral.
Probably right. Probably right.
You weren't pearl clutching. You were just saying at that point in time, it was cool. That's the way I thought of it. It was cool to see Francisco Lindor, who I have no problem with his bat flipping, and he's been a bat flipper.
Oh, yeah.
But in the scenario in which he hit the home run, why inflame the Phillies when they have 3 innings left?
All right. Generally speaking, let's just say a game in July, guy is bat flipping. It's part of the game. I get it now. I just don't have to like it as better. I like it better when a guy puts his head down and runs around the bases.
Okay, but can we examine?
I'm old school.
Can we examine why you like that?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I just like it. And to Randy's point, 6th inning, you could totally see how that would get under the skin of the Phillies. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden something happens and it goes the other direction. I'm just not a huge bat flip guy. Although I'll say this. Gerardo Parra hit a home run. I think I told you this. Mm-hmm. Colorado, this is probably 2000, let's say 13 or 14. Gerardo Parra hits a home run, and he's walking down the first base line as if he's holding the Olympic torch.
Yeah, right.
Okay. It was off of Lance Lynn. And I remember saying, this guy better duck because something's coming at his ear or his ribs, but it's coming hard. And next time up, he came up and Lance pitched him just like he'd pitch anybody else. So we're on the bus, and I said, Lance, what's going on here? I said, you didn't hit I thought for sure you're going to go after Para. And he said, that's just the game today.
It is.
And if he's old school and does it that way, then I got to be on board.
Hey,
it's my fault.
Yeah, I sure enjoyed Tom Lawless's, so I can't
Exactly.
The Tom Lawless one is so incredible. 314 says to that texter, okay, nerd.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think
bat flips are fantastic.
I think it's cool. Yeah,
Well, the younger generation loves it.
Well, yeah, because why? Because they're adults, but they're playing a children's game.
But what do you like better? Do you like the bat? Okay, you have the choice: a bat flip or a guy like Tatis the other night, just standing there and watching it when he knows.
Bat flip.
Bat flip.
I love that. Tatis watching was awesome the other night.
How about when Manny Ramirez hit his home run and stood at the plate with both arms up?
That one is pretty dope.
That's an iconic scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on the moment. I'm just not a huge fan of it.
I understand.
Yeah, put your head down, run around the bases, and go old school for me.
We had the best in terms of at-bat to home run guy. We had the best ever in Mark McGwire. He never bat flipped.
Nope.
He just watched the ball go 500 feet.
Let's see. I'm getting killed on the text line. Although
there's plenty of people agree with you as well.
There's
nothing wrong with being old school. It looks cooler not to celebrate it. That was always LaDainian Tomlinson's thing.
Mm-hmm.
He did just the one little flip, act like you've been there before. Seems like baseball was doing great when it was old school.
Now, this is a good point. 314 says, Danny Mac, do you like football celebrations? I love them.
They're awesome.
They're hilarious. I love them. They're choreographed. I think it's funny. I get a kick out of those. Maybe I should get a kick out of the bat flip in baseball.
Yeah, just certain ones. It's all right.
All right.
Coming up, the Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. And then at 9:15, Isaac Bruce on the anniversary of the Rams' 42-20 win over the San Francisco 49ers. That took place on October 10th of 1999. Isaac has some great stories coming up for you at 9:15. But the Rush Hour Reset is next. Blues hockey tonight here on 101 ESPN. They play the San Jose Sharks. 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock face-off here on your home of the Blues. Meanwhile, the baseball playoffs continue tonight as well. This afternoon, actually, you've got a 5 o'clock start. Cleveland at Detroit. It'll be Tanner Beebe against undecided for the Tigers. They had undecided yesterday, and 8 different guys combined to shut the Guardians out. And then tonight, the Yankees pitch Garrett Cole against Michael Wacha of the Royals. Yankees up 2-1 in that series. They have a chance to vanquish the Royals, and that game starts at 7 o'clock St. Louis time. Meanwhile, last night in Major League Baseball, you had the Mets eliminating the Phillies with a 4-1 victory. We were talking earlier about the grand slam home run for Francisco Lindor to help the Mets on their way to the victory. The Dodgers even things up with the Padres with an 8-0 win. They'll play game number 5 of their series tomorrow night, and that's it. You've got everything else is under control.
I didn't have a problem bringing back Dylan Cease on short days rest.
Neither.
I thought that was okay. You know, Mike Shildt was going for it. You're at home. You don't want to go back to Dodger Stadium, which is going to be nuts. You don't want to see a Game 5, obviously. I really didn't have a problem with that, although the analytics will tell you don't do that. But I had no problem with that. If he's your horse, and he, by the way, he sits around 97, 98. Typically, he was hitting 100 in the first inning.
Yeah.
He just wasn't locating. So he seemed to be, like the arm was good and lively, but just didn't hit location.
I think it'd be cool for a manager, especially if you have a good team, to try that out in August or something. Okay, so Dylan Cease, we might try to bring you back on 3 days rest come playoff time. I want to try this now just to see how it works.
There's that, and then there's the other part of this, too. I just wonder if there'll be a time where you protect pitchers so much that you go to a 6-man rotation in the regular season. Now, guys are creatures of habit. They don't like it, majority of them. I'd say 90-95% wouldn't like it of the starters, but 6-man rotation to protect guys, because if you got into postseason play, you'd be a little bit fresher than you might be going with the 5-man.
I think you're going to move past that point now where the Cardinals couldn't have done it this year with Gibson and Lynn and Gray, right? But at some point, you're going to reach a point where you're going to have a team where the guys don't care enough about pitching every 5th day. And you'll be able to do that. It'll be expensive, but you'll be able to do it.
Isn't it amazing? These starters do not go deep in any of these games. I mean, the Mets game was Quintana last night going 5. And then for the Mets, they had David Peterson come in. He throws 2+ innings out of the pen. And they used, I believe, 4 different guys to get through it, with Edwin Diaz closing things out. And, they find a way to win. Detroit using all the 6 different pitchers, which would not work in the regular season. But Cleveland had to pinch hit in both the 2nd and 3rd innings to try to counter that. The Guardians had a heavy left-handed lineup, and they've only scored in 2 of the 26 innings that they have played in. So the 6th inning of game number 1 is the last time that they scored. So they're looking for some offense. The Phillies, the hitters outside of Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos, went 13 for 100 with a 180 slug and 1 home run. And they're paying a ton of money to that lineup, and it just did not come through. And then last night, Giancarlo Stanton talked about it earlier. He was taking BP and taking everything the other way. He was one of the first players to show up at the ballpark in Kansas City, and he comes through, and he hits the ball hard, man. It's just a matter of him hitting the ball.
Right.
But when he does, he hits it hard.
It goes. There's Thursday Night Football tonight. The Niners are at Seattle, and the Niners don't have any of the big boys on their injury list. Out, Jordan Elliott, Demetrius Flanagan, Foles, Hufnega has been placed on IR, and Jake Moody, their kicker, has a right ankle injury. He's out for tonight's game, so they need a different kicker in San Francisco. Wide receiver Chris Conley, cornerback Charvarius Ward are both questionable for the game, but Kittle is in, Deebo Samuel is in, no McCaffrey because he's on IR, obviously.
Ayuk?
Yeah, he's in, so the Niners are as healthy pretty much as they can be right now.
I think this is a tough one to pick because Seattle's at home, always a very tough place to play. Geno has played okay. He's been fine. But this is kind of a must-win for San Francisco. They got to win this game. Yeah. I mean, they've blown 2 leads late that were big leads and lost those games. So I look at this as being like kind of almost a must-win for the 49ers going into there. And it makes it a tough pick'em for my friends that like to look at the lines and over-unders and things of that nature. So they're going to have to think about it this afternoon.
Speaking of the 49ers, 25 years ago today, the Rams entered their game against San Francisco. The St. Louis Rams entered their game against San Francisco, having lost 17 in a row to the 49ers. And Isaac Bruce and the St. Louis Rams came away with a 42-20 victory. And we will hear from Isaac about that game and that championship 99 season next here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Greatness hit a new speed in St. Louis.
Fires up the middle. A pass is caught to Isaac. It's Tibbet, and he's gone.
And the gateway to the West became
The gateway to the best football team in the world.
from the lowest lows
Green went down hard and is not getting up.
to the highest highs.
Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
And every unbelievable moment in between.
Touchdown. Ricky Prohl in the corner.
Every piece of the 99 season felt like a story. And today, we continue the legend of the greatest show on turf.
Welcome back to the opening drive on 101 ESPN. And we get an opportunity this week to continue our series of celebrations of the greatest show on turf for the 25-year anniversary of the St. Louis Rams winning Super Bowl 34. And this week, 25 years ago, the Rams had a monumental win, 42-20 over the San Francisco 49ers. And Isaac Bruce was a huge part of that game, and the Hall of Famer joins us now on the Celebrity Line on 101 ESPN. Isaac, thanks for your time. How you doing?
Hey, Randy, thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
I remember covering you from the time the Rams came here, and 49er week was always a big week for you personally. Going into this game, you guys are 3-0. The 49ers come in and they're 3-1. What do you remember about that week when you guys were finally good about getting ready to play the 49ers?
I remember a lot about that week. First of all, I'll start off way back in 1997. I believe Rich Brooks was the head coach at the time. And we started off pretty decent. I mean, we won a couple of games. We were sitting probably either tied for first or second in our division, which was new to me and definitely hadn't been that way for the Rams in a while. So leading up to that game in 97, the 49ers came in and they smacked us around real good at Busch Stadium. And you know what? It deflated not only us, but our entire season as a whole, because, we found out and they showed us that we weren't as good as we thought we were. So leading up to the game in 99, here we are again. We're 3-0, got a pretty decent team. We scored some points in the first three games, that was comparable to a lot of great offenses at that time. To me personally, I felt like the measuring stick could only come from the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, I had just refused to believe that, we were this juggernaut before we played the 49ers and before we actually beat them. So, once we got on that field and once that ball was kicked off, I was really tuned in just into what and how we were going to perform, not only as a defense, because we were known as a defensive team that years prior to 99, but how we were going to perform from an offensive standpoint.
And you personally score 3 first-quarter touchdowns. Rams are up 21-3 in the first quarter. And, Isaac, I remember you coming over to the bench and kind of doubling over. What happened there?
Well, you know what? I had a lot of emotions, Randy, to be honest, because, up until that point, I won't say we had lost 11 straight or maybe 17 straight at 17. That time. But we were pretty much humiliated in those games. I mean, there were a few games where we were close in that matchup, particularly one Sunday night game. I think it was the closest I had ever been in the fourth quarter to competing with the 49ers at that time. So, I just knew, the magnitude of the matchup. I was taught it. It was embedded into me and into my thinking by the great Pro Football Hall of Famer Jackie Slater. When I first got there, he let me know that, it's a Southern California versus a Northern California thing. And we don't like them and they don't like us. Henry Eller, he let me know, because we felt like there was a sense of arrogancy with the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, their mindset was their mindset, but, we let the way they think about themselves affect us, I believe. And it was just a lot of emotions at that time. And finally really having a significant lead on the San Francisco 49ers. The game definitely wasn't over in the first quarter, but being able to compete and, compete for a division that we hadn't been close to winning in a long time, I was just pretty much overcome with emotion at that time. Yeah,
and it's interesting because they did, like you said, they got within 28-20, and then Tony Horn returns a touchdown, and you score another. You score your fourth. So at the end of the game, you guys are up 42-20, and you have the ball at their 1-yard line, and you could have punched it in. You could have humiliated them like they humiliated you so many times, but the Rams took a knee. What did that mean to you?
You know what? I think that, to me and to our mindset at that time, that was the ultimate form of humiliation, just taking the knee. Because, when you beat the way we beat them down that day, and they refused to throw in the towel. So the worst thing we could do as a team is throw that towel in for them. So just to let them know, it was the first game. 42 points was good, but we're going to come back in Candlestick, which was the game I really wanted to win, which was the one in Candlestick that followed that game.
And I just want to go back to this one for one more moment because, like you said, it had been 17 in a row, and people like yourself, Todd Light, Keith Lyle, DeMarco Farr, Jay Williams, Kevin Carter, who is the original St. Louis Ram, you had suffered a lot of grief at the hands of the 49ers. So especially for that group of people that came from L.A. or were, like Kevin, the original St. Louis Ram, was that something that as a group meant even more to you than it did individually?
Oh, no doubt. I believe it was, on that team at that time, we had about 7 guys that made the trip from Los Angeles at that time. So, our mindsets were the same. I mean, you spoke to Kevin, you spoke to Todd, definitely DeMarco, just about the humiliation that we experienced at the hands of the 49ers. And we felt like that, once we got a team, first of all, on paper, second of all, on the field that could compete at a high level, we felt like our biggest matchup was going to be against the San Francisco 49ers. Up until that time, the NFC West, which was compiled of the Falcons, the Saints, the Rams, and the 49ers, it was pretty much the 49ers and everybody. We beat up on each other, and they just school us. Their biggest game came outside of their division. So once we got a team where we could match up, we look forward to playing that game.
Isaac, if that wasn't the point at which you started to believe the Rams could win a Super Bowl, when was it?
That was definitely it. That was it for me. I mean, by the time we got in the locker room, we pretty much were focused on being the division champions at that time. So we wanted to run the table. We wanted to be able to go to Atlanta, go to New Orleans, and go out the candlestick and let them know that there was a new sheriff in town. So I was definitely a believer after that game, and it wasn't easy, but, we ended up running the table through that division that year, and it was a great feeling. I mean, my first time winning the division, first time ever being able to put a T-shirt and a hat on the sideline as a division champion.
So we'll get to the San Francisco game out there in a moment, but everybody I talk to talks about how meaningful the losses were. The last game against Philadelphia, we'll throw that out, but the game at Tennessee, the game at Detroit, why were those losses so meaningful for the 99 Rams?
Well, you know what? We didn't have much room to be arrogant. We didn't have much room to be, looking down our nose at another team. It felt good to be where we were at those times. But you needed games that really, would solidify your thinking at that time, which was going to Nashville, playing against an AFC team that's ready, that's hyped for you. You're no longer the hunted, but the huntee, and be able to perform well. So those games really stick out because we felt like we could have won, but didn't win, particularly versus the Titans. And then the following week, we try to regroup and go in against Detroit and try to pull off a win. And we got reminded that you got to bring it every week. It's not about, a title or, just an offensive juggernaut, but a team effort. So we were able to regroup after those 2 games and put a series of wins together.
And one of those wins was the game at San Francisco on November 21st. You guys win 23-7, and it was kind of a methodical, for your team, kind of a methodical win. And I have to believe for your team, and this, again, that same group of guys, to not do it with the fireworks show, but just to kind of steamroll the 49ers had to be a great feeling.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, from the first win, it built our confidence. And like I said, it let us know, and it put everyone else in our division on notice that, we were a team to be reckoned with. We had a really good team we had a really good scheme. Our personnel, it was hard to match up with our personnel and our mindset as a whole. So by the time we got ready to go to Candlestick, our goal was, as a team, was to make sure the San Francisco 49ers fans exit early and bring all down the Los Angeles Ram fans so we can high five and sign autographs in the fourth quarter.
The Hall of Famer Isaac Bruce with us on 101 ESPN. Okay, as you think back 25 years ago, do you have a story that stands out? And it doesn't have to be a game story, but practice, locker room, on a bus, in a game. What stands out for you?
Oh, you know what? I'll say a couple of trips back home from the West Coast. Definitely that one from coming from Candlestick. We had taken that flight so many times in a defeated mindset, defeated mode. Just that year in that flight, you know what? We had an opportunity. DeMarco, myself, we're sitting up on the charter with our feet up. Had some dinner, and you know, we never went to sleep that night. So we just was trying stuff on the airplane, trying to rock and see if we could rock the plane, you know, left and right. You know, unfortunately, it didn't happen. But you know, just to be able to think about stuff like that, just to be able to be leaving San Francisco, California with a W, man. I mean, that was a small win for us, but a huge win for us.
Isaac Bruce with us as we celebrate 25 years since the greatest show on turf, the Super Bowl 34 championship. More with the Hall of Famer next on 101 ESPN.
It's the greatest time of the year, and it's the best time of the week because it's Thursday, and that means there's football, which means I'm putting in some entries for some daily fantasy with my friends at Underdog Fantasy. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by competing on Underdog. What you got to do, you just got to pick higher or lower on your favorite player's stats whenever they're playing a game, and it doesn't matter whether or not it's football, baseball, hockey. Underdog Fantasy has it all. So tonight, it's a perfect night. You can line up some entries with the Blues. You can line up some entries on Thursday Night Football, or you can even combine your entries across Thursday Night Football and the Blues. Maybe you don't like to pick any San Jose Sharks, so you want to go with the Blues and Seahawks pick, what have you. You can do that. I'm going to go with a straight football pick and a straight hockey pick. Here is what my football pick's going to be. Higher than 31 passing attempts for Brock Purdy and higher than 252 passing yards for Geno Smith, who's leading the league in passing yards. And because we got big games from the quarterbacks, we're going to go big games from their wide receivers. Higher than 66.5 receiving yards for both Brandon Ayuk and DK Metcalf. So we're going higher in the passing yardage of this San Francisco and Seattle game as they kick off another week in the NFL. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog is going to give you a free pick to use on your first Cash Champions entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim that new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus in President's Day when Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumer either play, call 1-800-GAMBLER, visit www.ncpgambling.org. This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, Major League Baseball playoffs, Tigers take a 2-1 lead in that series with a 3-0 win over the Guardians. They will go for a win in that series tonight with a 5:08 first pitch. Speaking of winning in this series, the Mets did it. They wrapped their 3-1 victory over the Phillies with a 4-1 victory. The Yankees take a 2-1 lead in their series over the Royals with a 3-2 victory. They will try to finish out their series tonight. The later game in your AL slate with a 7:08 first pitch. And Dodgers and Padres are now tied up at 2 games apiece thanks to the Dodgers' 8-0 victory. You have to wait till Friday for Game 5 of that matchup. Your St. Louis Blues are back in action tonight. They face off against the San Jose Sharks. It is in San Jose, so it's a late game tonight, 9:30 p.m. puck drop right here on 101 ESPN. You're home for the St. Louis Blues. And that means pregame show gets you started at 8:30. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back to the opening drive. Isaac Bruce is joining us. And Isaac, I know that for a long time you had the photo of yourself holding the Lombardi trophy up as your screensaver on your phone and on your computer. Do you have a favorite photo from that season, whether it's something in a game or something in a locker room? Do you have a favorite photo that stands out to you?
You know what? That's one of my favorite, but there's also a photo that we took in the locker room after winning Super Bowl 34. It was myself. It was Todd Light. It was DeMarco. It was Jay Williams. It was Keith Lyle, and it was Jay Zygmunt. And we all took a LA picture. I believe Jim Anderson was in that picture as well. So that's one of my favorite pictures. And I haven't shared it with the guys yet. Maybe one day I will.
That's so cool. You had an interesting relationship, I'll use the word interesting, with Coach Vermeil before 99. Can you take us through, because he had called you our so-called superstar, that's well chronicled. Take us through your relationship with Dick Vermeil from then to that year to what it is now.
Well, I mean, I'll start with the way it is now. I mean, we talk quite often. He's my coach. I get advice from him. Coach Vermeil, came to my wedding 18 years ago and participated with us. And every time we have a chance to sit down and speak, albeit if it's in Canton, Ohio, if it's in Los Angeles or St. Louis, we cherish those moments. It started off just a little rocky. I think that, we didn't really know each other. We were in a process of learning each other, his coaching style and my ability to receive coaching. I think it was a little different because, I don't know, maybe Coach Vermeil was used to people verbalizing their discontent with him initially versus, I could take orders, I could go out and perform what you need to do my job, and then go sit in my locker and just chill out. So I felt like that was probably different to him, just sitting back, reflecting on it now. But, in the end, it all came together because Coach Vermeil wanted to win Super Bowls. When he first came in, he mentioned playing in significant games late in the season, in December, in January. He wanted to win divisions. He wanted to win Super Bowls. Those were the very same goals that I had. So I knew as a professional, I thought, you know what? It doesn't have to be combustible in a locker room between a coach and a player because I know my position, coach knows his position. We can just shoot at that ultimate goal, which is winning a Super Bowl. And by the grace of God, we got it done.
Did you ever have to have a meeting, or did it just kind of, through the course of time, it just kind of worked itself out?
I think we had a couple of meetings. There were a couple of meetings. You mentioned the quote that he famously or infamously put out there about me. The next morning we had a meeting about that, which was really nothing to me. I mean, I was a guy who could really build his own identity on my own. I didn't need any help with that from any outside source. So, a quote like that really didn't faze me. I think it really touched a lot of other people in the media because at that time they probably seen me as one of the bright spots on the offense. So, we got over it quickly. I mean, I let it roll off my back, and from there, it wasn't long before we had personal conversations about development and his coaching style and his trials with Lawrence Phillips. We had those conversations on the field, so we kind of got to know each other, and it's been growing ever since.
Hey, Isaac, there are so many emotions that occur during any season, but that season had so many, and a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And I got to tell you, because I like you, and I've always liked you.
Thank you.
But when we came in that morning and found out about your car accident, I was scared to death. There's a lot of people now that are listening that are less than 30 years old that don't remember that season and some of the specifics of that season. But it's an amazing story, and it really goes to your faith. Can you tell people about the car accident that you had coming back from Columbia?
Well, first of all, I'll start by saying that, it's always smart and it's always important to wear your seatbelt when you're driving, okay? Keon Dooling and another one of his teammates.
Clarence Gilbert?
Clarence Gilbert, that's my guy, Clarence Gilbert. So I'm used to saying his nickname. He's from Fort Lauderdale. They're from Fort Lauderdale, went to my high school, and ended up signing with Mizzou. So the first opportunity I had, I wanted to go up and see him play up in Columbia. So we did it. My girlfriend and I, my wife at the time, we ended up driving up to Columbia, got an invite from Mr. Kroenke. So we watched the game with Mr. Kroenke. And after the game, we're just cruising down 70, headed back to St. Louis. And before you know it, my rear driver's tire explodes in my car. And me being, the smartest person that I know, I thought it was okay to take the car out of cruise control and kind of help it slow down by putting on the brake. Listen, if you're listening out there, never do that. Never do it. I mean, it sent the car into a tailspin. We spent on the road about 3 times before the car actually tumbling over about 2 times. Just a single car accident at the time. And fortunately, Randy, I had been trained by my mother, by my father coming up to keep my trust and put my trust in the Lord and keep my trust in the Lord. There were many times when I'd be sitting in church growing up as a youngster. There were different verses of scripture that I would hear, some that I would hear and learn, some that I would hear, learn, and repeat, making an affirmation of it. So one of those scriptures was, if I was ever in trouble, that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved, shall be delivered. I don't just mean that from going to hell to going to heaven, but will be delivered out of a situation that they may be in. And at that very moment when that car was spinning, I remembered to call on the name of Jesus at that time. And when I called on the name of Jesus, not having a seatbelt on, releasing my hands off the wheel, car turning and flipping over a couple of times, Randy, I ended up getting out of that car, my wife and I, without a scratch on us. You had a guy that appeared to me out of nowhere, out of the woods, 70, and asked me if I needed help. And the paramedics came. They were so good, so gracious. Kevin Warren, I always tip my hat off to Kevin for his ability to stand with me in that moment. But the goodness of God and the graciousness of God to keep me safe and unharmed, and ended up, playing football that weekend, going to New Orleans, catching 4 passes for 112 yards, is my testimony and my testament to how good God is and how good he's been to me.
Yeah, thank God. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And then another one that goes to your faith was before, and we're going to wrap up here with the Minnesota game. We'll talk later as we get towards the Super Bowl, about the Super Bowl. Okay. But the hamstring situation, because we talked about 98, the hamstring situation before the Minnesota game. Yeah.
So if any of your listeners or you, Randy, have ever had a hamstring, man, it's one of those nagging injuries from about 97 to 98. I was pretty much plagued with the bad hamstring. And you can't run. You can't bend. You can look fine just standing up. You can put your uniform on and people, and even yourself will think you're well. But the moment you choose to explode or even walk fast, that hamstring can pull you, and it's one of the most painful things that you've ever experienced, that I've ever experienced. I mean, I've had conversation with great athlete after great athlete, Ozzie Smith. We talked about it at length about hamstrings and how to protect them and how to make sure that, they're prepared to go. But, in the pregame, coming up against Minnesota, one of the biggest games that's ever been in the city of St. Louis, I just told myself, listen, I'm not going to stretch. I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to pull a hamstring. And this is the power of our minds. I hadn't all season long, I hadn't thought about my hamstring or pulling a hamstring. But at that moment in pregame, I told myself not to stretch because I didn't want to pull a hamstring. So right before we're getting ready to go in as a team, I do one little small stretch, and my hamstring pops, Randy. I pop my hamstring, my left hamstring. And as I'm getting up, I make a beeline gingerly to the locker room. I pass by Jim Anderson, and he sees this look on my face, and I don't want to say anything to him because if you say half of a statement to Jim Anderson, he's running to Dick Vermeil, who's going to run to Mike Martz and let him know there's a situation, there's a level 10 situation going on. So, and mind you, the first play all week was coming to me. Trust me. So, as I get in the locker room, the only thing I could remember is what's on my mind to do is to try to contact my mother, which was living in Florida at the time. And she hadn't made it to that game, which is strange. But I ended up, my mother wasn't around. She was at church. I ended up calling my sister Juliana, and I let her know what had happened as I'm on my cell phone hiding in a closet from Jim Anderson so he wouldn't see me, man, And, I got this look on my face like something terribly wrong. So, my sister and I, we pray. And at the end of the conversation, I told her, listen, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to play. And I'm going to play well. So those were the last words that I told her. And I promise you, Randy, I sit through the national anthem. The Vikings got the ball first. They had this long drive, and I hadn't said a word to anybody about my hamstring. And we ended up getting the ball. Tony returns it to whatever, the 23-yard line or whatever, 18 or whatever. And I gingerly walk to the huddle. I gingerly break the huddle, and I switch my feet. And if you know me, I'm always have my inside foot up. If I'm on the left, it would be my right foot. If I'm on the right, it would be my left foot. So my hamstring is throbbing at the time, and I put my left foot up. Kirk goes through the cadence, and when Kirk says hut, and I see the ball moving, I just explode off the line. And, it was a supernatural moment for me. I explode off the line. Everything worked out just the way it worked out in practice. I go past the linebacker, Dwayne Rudd, which happened to be a buddy of mine. And we make the safety miss. And Torrey Holton and myself are actually racing to the end zone. So it was another one of those supernatural moments, man, that I'll never forget. And once again, it was the gracious goodness of God that got me through that moment. And that will last with me forever.
That is amazing. And Isaac, when I've been doing this, as you know, for a long time, and that's one of my 2 or 3 favorite moments that I've been at, that touchdown that you scored, but the story surrounding it makes it even better for me. And I would have to believe that makes it better. Heck, as a kid who grew up in St. Louis, first playoff game of an NFL team in St. Louis, first offensive play, and you score, and you knew the history too. So that all had to come together to make it really an incredible moment for you.
I mean, just being in that atmosphere that day, I thought the roof was going to come off. The fans were so great. Some of the best fans in sports. I mean, they were very knowledgeable of the game. And like I said, I thought the roof was going to come off that week. But I knew for a fact the roof almost came off the following week when we played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was a great moment.
Last thing, would you have thought in '99 when you guys won the Super Bowl that we would be in 2024 and you would still have such a profound effect on the St. Louis community? Did you see that coming?
You know what? Whenever you play in a city like St. Louis that has such a rich history, a rich baseball history of what the Cardinals have done, and shout out to the Cardinals because I mean, they're so good, so gracious, brought me and my teammates back to St. Louis, flew us in, put us up, and they just supported everything with my foundation a couple of weeks ago. But the history, the sports history, is baseball in St. Louis. When we can, as a team, as a unit, And when I say team and unit, I include the fan base. Really just put that to the side for a moment and really just focus in on what was happening at that time for those probably 3.5 years, 3.5 seasons. Be able to set that aside. It was amazing, man. It was just like it was just meant to be, and it was also like it should never have ended.
Yeah, it was, like Coach Martz always said, it was a special place and time, and thank goodness we had it 25 years ago. Yeah. It's amazing that it's 25 years ago. But thank you so much for the time today, for what you do for the St. Louis community, and all the incredible memories. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Randy. Thanks for having me.
That is Hall of Famer Isaac Bruce with us. Dan, the very first jersey I ever bought in my life was a number 80 Isaac Bruce jersey.
Is it really?
Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorite athletes.
One of mine, too.
Such an incredible athlete, and then even better human being. He's as great as he was as a Hall of Fame football player. He's beyond that as a human being.
I had forgotten about the car wreck. That was an amazing story. That was amazing. Yeah. And how he came out of that unscathed is beyond me, but thank God he did.
And then remembers, what a great memory, the 4 catches for 112 yards against New Orleans the following Sunday. Next week, we'll hear from Grant Wistrom. That'll be the anniversary of the 43-12 win in Atlanta. Grant had a 91-yard interception return for a touchdown, and I think he might have a stat for us next Thursday when we talk to him.
Looking forward to that.
About the 25-year anniversary of the St. Louis Rams winning Super Bowl 34. We've got Rocc and Roll coming up next on 101 ESPN. As fall arrives, I want you to get your furnace checked out by Hoffman Brothers. Make sure that your furnace is good to go for the winter months here in St. Louis by calling Hoffman Brothers at 314-664-3011 or finding them on the web at hoffmanbros.com. And did you know that inside your home can be more polluted than the air outside? Dust, allergens, contaminants, they can build up in your air ducts, and that affects your health and comfort. Have you ever considered getting your air ducts cleaned? If not, now's the time. As winter approaches, you're going to be inside even more. And breathing clean is so important. And Hoffman Brothers offers duct cleaning services. Give them a call for that. And if you're a plumber that might be looking for an upgrade in your employment position, Hoffman Brothers is hiring. They're looking for licensed service plumbers to join their winning team. They have 5 weeks of paid time off. They've got paid training. They've got a family-friendly atmosphere, great company culture, and bonus programs. And Hoffman Brothers, it's a Mitsubishi Electric elite contractor, and they have additional training on products, maintenance, and installation. It's Hoffman Brothers, 314-664-3011, or at hoffmanbros.com.
corner rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Hey, next Tuesday, we're going to be at Westport. You can catch us live from 7 to 10 a.m. from the Rawlings Experience. Rawlings is the #1 baseball brand worldwide, and they're going to be revealing this year's Gold Glove Award finalists at this exclusive event, the opening drive, live this Tuesday morning from the Rawlings Experience in Westport Plaza for the Gold Glove Award finalist announcement. Get more details now at 101ESPN.com. Looking forward to that. And if you want to hear the Isaac Bruce interview, if you didn't hear it in its entirety, you can hear it later on our podcast at 101ESPN.com or on the app. Brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Center. All right, Matthew, what do you got for Rock and Roll?
Diego Pavia, one of the best stories in college football, obviously, with Vanderbilt's victory over Alabama. He joined College Football Live on ESPN the other day to talk about the big win, and they brought on a special guest that got him pretty hyped.
Some people were comparing you to former Penn State QB Trace McSorley, but you said your game is more like former A&M QB Johnny Manziel. Can you tell us why?
Shoot, I think we kind of bring the same electric mentality to the football game, to the football field. We both are big believers in ourselves, and I feel like, I haven't got the chance to talk to Johnny, but, we're wired different. We'll do anything to win. But, yeah, I feel like we have a lot of the same play style.
All right, well, before we let you go, since you and Johnny both beat Bama, I think it's fitting that we both bring you on the show. So let's welcome in Johnny Manziel. Johnny, what do you have to about what many are calling of the upset of the season?
Man, what an awesome game. So fun to watch, bro. Couldn't be happier for you.
Hell yeah, I appreciate that, Johnny. Hopefully you come out to a full game, man. We're electric down here.
Yeah, I'm going to try and make it out and come see you guys, and that's for sure, man. You guys have been on a heck of a run this season.
You heard the little gap there. It's because Diego Pavia, as you learned if you were watching the post game, hasn't learned the edit trick when you have the camera. He has no filter when the camera's in front of him, which I think is kind of funny. And here's the reason why I wanted to play that, because obviously he said it was a cool moment for him, but I do want to zone in on this for a minute. Diego Pavia was 11 years old when Johnny Manziel beat Alabama.
Wow.
I can't imagine, this is why sports are so freaking amazing. I just imagine he's in New Mexico growing up in Albuquerque at 11 years old, I'm sure, running out into his backyard to do like the jump pass that Johnny Manziel did against Bama. Fast forward, and then he takes down Bama as a quarterback that no one gave the chance to. Just the fact that it comes full circle like that for a fan, and then obviously you get the cool moment where Johnny Manziel jumps on the show with him and surprises him. That's cool in of itself, but I couldn't stop thinking of just like, this is 11-year-old Diego Pavia is freaking out in the multiverse somewhere that in the future he does what he watched Johnny Manziel do. And for all I know, that could have been the moment where, for a lot of people, Johnny Manziel hit that level. And for all I know, that was the moment that Johnny Manziel became Diego Pavia's favorite quarterback. And then he gets to do the exact same thing that he did 10 years later. It's incredible. It's why I love sports.
I think he's got to be part of the Heisman hype.
Yeah, he does.
Right now. As crazy as that sounds, the QB from Vanderbilt being part of the Heisman conversation, I'd put Cam Ward in there. I'd put Travis Hunter in there. What about Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State? So these are some of the names that I would throw in there, but Pavia was part of my Heisman hype on the list of guys that we at least would be talking about right now. And they've got Texas in a couple of weeks. If he does something against Texas, well, then who knows?
Yeah, Mizzou people were upset about the closeness of the game, the overtime against Vandy. It's not a bad thing now.
No, it's not. And they knock off Alabama. They've got Texas coming up in a couple of weeks, so another chance to make a statement. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Danny, you were awesome today.
You too, sir, and great job with Isaac. That was awesome.
Thank you. And I enjoyed it immensely. And if you want to hear it again, you can hear it, as we mentioned, on the podcast later. We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. For all of us, until tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Have a fabulous Friday Eve, St. Louis.